And we're back for another episode of the Department Podcast with Justin Valentovic, Stephen Clark, Joe Paolantonio, and Jesse Norman, and Jimmy the Cricket in the background because, quite frankly, it's loud as hell, and I'm recording this in my basement. I don't know where he went. He's somewhere in behind crap that I can't get to right now. I killed one last night, but I guess there's another one, and he's louder than ever, but we'll get through it. But we're here to talk about week 4 of the NFL season that we thankfully got through for the most part, with a little bit of a COVID scare, with the Steelers and Titans being completely moved. 2 Monday Night Football games we had between the Chiefs and the Patriots, and then Packers and the Falcons. A lot of moving parts. The Colts going to 4 o'clock, 4:25, whatever you want to call it. But I guess at this point of the season, we have to be more thankful that it's just not a given anymore because COVID is real and it's happening in the NFL.
Yeah, we're lucky. We're very lucky as fans to be able to watch football week 4 because it, for one point, was looking like, well, we know that the Steelers and the Titans got pushed back a couple weeks because of the Titans outbreak and all that stuff. But once the Cam Newton news started coming out and then the Chiefs backup quarterback and all that nonsense, it was looking like week 4 might have had to take a little bit of a break. But luckily we got through it. We got through a lot of games. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Well, what I thought was interesting, though, is it didn't look like a COVID week. Like, it kind of just felt very normal, very apart of everything else. It didn't kind of have a feel like these games were being played under risk of COVID-19. So as long as the players look and feel safe, then either we're going to keep chugging along until catastrophe.
Yeah, and the other bit of news before we get into the on the field things, right before we record the podcast, probably not right before, but 6 o'clock or so, it broke that the Texans finally canned Bill O'Brien after an 0-4 start, mortgaging their future absolutely terribly. He's gone. This is a move that they've long had to make, and it's a good thing that they finally did it. But the problem is coming into it, they have no one to work with.
Now they have no assets because he got rid of them. So whoever is going to come into this job needs to be very similar to Sean Marks and what he did for the Nets when he came in and there was absolutely no assets because they have the highest payroll in the NFL. I know that's crazy to think when the Rams and Saints are literally paying everybody and the salary cap doesn't exist. The Texans have the highest payroll. And who is on their team, by the way?
Deshaun Watson, and that's it.
Deshaun Watson and an old JJ Watt and a decent tackle that they gave away so much capital for.
Yeah.
So since taking over as GM, O'Brien traded Hopkins for David Johnson and a second-round pick, traded Clowney for a third-round pick, gave up first- and second-round picks for Larry Tunsil and Kenny Stills, and then traded a second-round pick for Brandon Cooks. He absolutely took on bad contracts, mediocre players, and they have no return. The Dolphins are sitting pretty for next draft.
Here's the deal. It does not matter what happens the rest of this season. Honestly, they should try to win some games. Miami owns their first 2 picks. This is a disaster of epic proportions in Houston, and I think we all kind of saw it coming. This is kind of one of the rare situations where, Bill O'Brien was on the hot seat, in the public eye, and he almost immediately got fired right after. Usually Adam Gase, Dan Quinn, it's like these guys are on the hot seat for Marvin Lewis, a hot seat for months, years longer. But it feels like as soon as Bill O'Brien hit the hot seat, he was out of there. So, thank goodness. I'm not going to lie and say that Bill O'Brien was a disgrace to coaching. I think there are coaches who are worse currently in the NFL, but he did not deserve the GM job at all, in way over his head. But will he find his way back as an OC? I can see it.
Yeah,
I can absolutely see it.
Definitely, he'll find his way back. But like you said, Joe, Adam Gase is still a coach in the National Football League, and that's a problem. He's way worse than Bill O'Brien, and the fact that he's still employed going into week 5 of the 2020 season is a problem for the New York Jets, and it helps anybody they face. So
Gase, Quinn, and Fangio are probably all the next ones to get axed, but we'll talk about that when it inevitably happens. So let's get into some football. So normally we just go right down the line, how the games happen in reverse order. So Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, 4 p.m. games, 1 p.m.s, and then Thursday Night Football. But we're going to change it up a little bit. We're going to go draft style, counterclockwise, whatever order the Zoom windows in. So I'm going to start off, then Clark, then Joe, then Jesse, and we'll just pick the games we want to talk about. This way, we talk about the more interesting games early on in the podcast, and the crappier ones we spend less time and just blow through them. So to start things off, I want to go with the Cleveland Browns and the Dallas Cowboys, because quite frankly, this was probably the game of the week. The Browns finally got their you-know-what together, and the offense exploded for what we thought this offense could have been able to do for really since they got Odell, Baker. Now they got Austin Hooper. Kareem Hunt, looks like what he was with the Chiefs. Obviously, the big takeaway is that, Nick Chubb is hurt for about 6 weeks. But on the flip side of the ball,
doesn't matter.
Dak Prescott is on pace for over 6,500 yards at this point, and they're 1-3.
Yeah, Baker's still not good, in my opinion. I'm not a fan of Baker. I just think he has really great talent around him that helps him look better than he is. Odell's good. Chubb was good for a little bit, but Kareem, if you have 2 top 10 running backs in the league, you're going to have a good offense no matter what. It doesn't matter, especially when the playoffs come rolling around. That if that team somehow makes it to the playoffs, that's dangerous, very dangerous in the playoffs. Odell and Jarvis were on top of their game, especially Odell. And they played well. They played well as a team, and they gelled really well against a crappy Dallas defense too. So I give credit where credit's due, but I'm still not a fan of Baker.
I said last week that Cleveland beats up on bad teams, and that's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And that's what Dallas is. Dallas is at best a top 30 defense. They're terrible. Their defense might be I'm saying that to be generous. They might have the worst defense in the league. And there are teams that are tanking. So
yeah, so the next week for the Browns is going to be a test too, because they're going against one of the better defenses in the Colts next week. So it's going to be a big test for the Browns. If they pick up the win next week, they are a legit contender.
I think the Browns are going to make the playoffs. I think they play enough bad teams, and I don't think they're a bad team. I just think they, eventually talent starts to win, and Odell Beckham is a certified Cowboy killer. Well, he has great games against the Cowboys.
Well, that's the thing. This was the perfect game, not just the opponent, but just in general for him to finally wake up. And this was basically his best game as a Brown since he's been traded
By far.
And, I think for the time being, it definitely silences the trade, talks that they're going to try to move him, considering, they lost one game and they're ready, and people were ready for them to dump him. And now on the flip side of things, they rattle off 3 straight wins, and you almost can't.
Yeah. I mean, looking at the Browns right now, this is I think my entire life, this is the best I have felt about the Browns. What they did coming into this year is much different than what they did coming to last year. Austin Hooper, great pickup, paying dividends. Jack Conklin, another guy they picked up in free agency, has been really good. They drafted well with Jedrick Wills. They've really done a good job, and I think they got the coach right. I mean, what Freddie Kitchens' offense looked like was very bare bones, very, very elementary playbook. Kevin Stefanski, within 4 weeks and no preseason, has completely reshaped the entire offense. Baker has limitations. We all know that. If Baker throws more than 30, 35 times, they're probably in trouble. But Stefanski can mask it. Stefanski knows what he's doing. And I was a critic of the hire. I did not think he deserved this job, but you got to give credit where credit's due. And I think this is a much different Browns team than what we saw last year. I'm not saying they're great. I think they're the 3rd best team in their division, but that's
also because they do play in a great division.
Yeah, and I said early on that was probably the best division in football, and I mean the Browns look outstanding. I think this division's looking right up there with the NFC West.
And it's amazing that it's a tale of 2 halves for both divisions that each team play in. Where the North, you have 3 legitimate teams. Bengals, they have some upside now with Joe Burrow, and if they get an offensive line, they could be a contender in 2 to 3 years, depending on how they progress. But then you look at the East, where it's just a complete mess. And, at this rate, the East is just not worth talking about. So that's that game. So, Clark, what's your pick?
I'm going to go with Buffalo and the Raiders for one reason only, because I have a new MVP candidate, and that is Josh Allen. Josh Allen is putting this team on his back. The moves they made in the offseason, plus what they kept from last season, is making this Bills team one of the most standout, underrated teams in the AFC. Yes, they're 4-0. I know that. I shouldn't call them underrated, but they have just dominated a good Raiders team now too. I don't know. I just really like the Bills. I like what I saw from Josh Allen. Stephon Diggs is an amazing wide receiver, number one. Their defense steps up every game too. I really like the Bills.
I think with the addition
if
of
Diggs keeps playing this way, Diggs has been the big takeaway, I think.
He's elevated that offense to the next level it's needed to be without getting, a big time, bell cow running back, because it gives someone Allen can legitimately trust downfield and someone who can pull double teams downfield to give Cole Beasley, and John Brown wide open looks downfield, which we saw. And something that Allen's really impressed me with is that he's able to touch pass really well downfield, and the accuracy is getting there. And that's what his biggest problem was last year, where he would overshoot it, 10 to 15 yards downfield, and the deep ball is there, and being able to throw to the sidelines to where only his receiver can get it. He's done it really well in getting the ball in tight windows.
Yeah, the only thing with Josh Allen's takeaway is that he's not clutch yet. Doesn't have that veteran presence in like the last 2 minutes of a game or something. Like if they were down, say 10 points with 2 minutes or like with 5 minutes left to go, I don't trust them to get the win in that game. I really don't, because Josh Allen does not have that veteran mindset yet. Yeah, go ahead.
And I think there's a lot of guys that I wouldn't trust with that. I don't know if I'd trust Lamar with that at this point. Playing from behind is a different beast than playing from ahead. True. And Josh Allen is definitively at his best when they can play ahead, when they can hand off on first and second down, play action pass on third down. That's not to take anything away from him, though, because he has been fantastic. He hasn't thrown them out of any games. He's only made good plays for them for the most part. There is still those bad turnovers here and there, but that's going to be part of being a young quarterback. And their offense isn't fantastic. I mean, let's be honest. Their running back core is mediocre. They probably need an upgrade over Singletary. The receiving core is fine now that they have Diggs. But, I mean, even they don't have a great tight end. The line, so-so. So, I mean, the offense isn't fantastic. But they're sitting at 4-0, and he's doing everything for them.
Exactly.
And also, this Raiders team is pretty solid. Like, it's a pretty good Raiders team. They're going to be much better in like a year or two when they can keep hitting on these draft picks. The Raiders are going to be good, and it just spells out an even tougher AFC West going forward because the Chiefs, Chargers, and Raiders are all looking up.
And I'm not trying to, blow smoke up, my team's ass, but you look at the Colts, like they hit on every late round pick. You look at the Raiders now with Mike Mayock in charge, they're hitting on their late round picks, and that's how you build a team.
Yes.
One of their biggest late round picks is Max Crosby, who's a very good pass rusher, over Cleveland Farrell, who's just kind of not doing anything, but they've built depth really well. And, Derek Carr, he is what he is at this point. He's a game manager who can make throws when he has to, but he won't be the quarterback by the time they're ready to get over the hump. But, they could sneak in as a wild card team, maybe next year at this rate.
Tell you, I was absolutely shocked to see that Josh Norman could still play at not maybe an elite level, but he could still play at a very high level. Tre'Davious White, I think, has taken a little bit of a step back for them, but Josh Norman is really a guy. I mean, we saw him make a big play, a big forced fumble on Sunday. I mean, he really looks huge, and that defense is crazy. It looks like, I mean, the bright spot of that team is the offense, which coming into the season you would never believe. And what's super scary about this offense, and what I think could be tough for the Patriots, is that the Bills' offensive line, it seems like it's gotten better and better each week. It seems like that unit has gotten progressively better, and that's the key to winning, especially in the AFC. It seems like the team with a great offensive line is always doing well with, Patriots, Chiefs, of course, the quarterbacks, but you got to protect them, right? And I mean, how we knew Josh Allen has arrived is when he went to the locker room, it felt like the Bills could not recover from that sort of injury. Like, even last year, like at the end of last year, if Matt Barkley came in a game, you do not view the Bills very much differently at all. I would still give them just as much of a chance to win with Matt Barkley and Josh Allen, if anything, slightly less. But Josh Allen goes deep, and it felt on par with like Matt Moore coming in for the Chiefs last year. Like that's how it felt, and that's really how you know that Josh Allen's arrived and legit.
So with that, Joe, we're gonna stick it with you. What game do you want to talk about next?
I mean, this was a tough week looking at matchups here. I think we were spoiled the first 3 weeks. But looking at the docket, the one game I want to go with is, unfortunately, Chargers 31, Buccaneers 38. I mean, we got to talk about it. We just do. As much
I'd love to talk about it.
It's painful. I mean, it is painful to talk about, but there is, I guess, a reason why they call him Touchdown Tom. I mean, he was slinging it like it's 2013. Like, what's going on? Throwing the ball deep. I mean, down the middle of the field. It's like, whew. I mean, this Buccaneers team looked like they took it into a new gear that we have not seen these first 3
timing
weeks.
With Mike Evans is getting a lot better. The offense is really starting to click. And this is what everyone thought the Buccaneers would look like, week one. But obviously, maybe if they had a preseason, this is what they would have looked like. And if anything went with Tom Brady, something goes awry, he adjusts and game plans and studies as much as humanly possible to be ready for it. But on the flip side, Justin Herbert looks like he's going to be a star in this league. He went toe-to-toe with Tom Brady and really didn't back down either.
100%.
Now, on the flip side of things, both defense can't even stop a nosebleed at this rate. Defenses.
Yeah, no, you're right. No, you're right. Defenses were both defense, whatever. Defense was horrible in the game.
The Bucks defense is supposed to be good. That's my kind of one takeaway from this is as great as Brady was, the fact that he had to throw 5 touchdowns
to 5 different receivers
for them to win is kind of like mind-boggling because I feel like that's not what he came to Tampa to do. It was supposed to be more of a game managing role. And I'm sorry, but if you're asking Brady to throw 5 touchdowns every week, you're going to lose more games than you win now at this point.
Yeah.
They didn't have the best defense last year either. I don't know what he was really expecting. They had a couple pieces on the line, and their linebackers were pretty good, but your secondary is god-awful. So I don't know what he was expecting.
Their secondary is...
It's almost like how they wanted him to be a game manager of how like Gronk now is a blocking tight end.
They also did the thing that the Eagles did where the Eagles had a really bad receiving core, drafted one player, and were like, okay, that's it, we're fixed. They got Anton Winfield Jr. That didn't fix your secondary. That's not it. That's not where you just stop.
No.
But I mean, Herbert looks good. I want to see. I don't think they're going to stick with him, and I think that's the wrong call.
It's almost to avoid a lawsuit.
But I think they're going to move back to Tyrod. Well,
yeah,
and it is so weird because how do you not go back to Tyrod when your team doctor injured him?
Well, and that's the thing. The old phrase like saying is like you shouldn't lose your job to an injury, but it's like when the injury is caused by your own team, you almost have to go back to them by default. But Herbert looks really good, and you don't want this to stunt his development by him, playing for 2-3 weeks or however long it takes at that point, looking really good, and then benching him for the sake of just benching him and to bring back Tyrod because he was supposed to be the starter all along. That's something that Anthony Lynn really has to figure out.
Anthony Lynn's not a good coach. That's all. Anthony Lynn is not a good coach. He should not be there when they start the season next year. He is so conservative almost every single week that Chargers fans were applauding him for going for it on a 4th and 1. Like, congrats. That's how much Chargers fans don't like Anthony Lynn.
Yeah.
And I can't blame them.
I thought they were going to get rid of him the year that I thought they were going to get rid of him was the year they stumbled into the playoffs against Lamar and beat him. Like, I thought that was the year prior they were going to get rid of him.
So 2 years ago.
Yeah.
2 years ago.
Like, I thought that's when the writing was going to be on the wall.
Yeah, but no, great showing by both quarterbacks.
But then they got the playoff win.
Yeah, exactly. So that saved them.
Then they couldn't.
Like you said, guys, though, Herbert is bound to be a star. I don't think he stays with the Chargers. I feel like the Chargers are gonna keep Tyrod Taylor or some garbage move and do something stupid. But no, Herbert looked good. Brady looked amazing. It was a good game, a very good game.
Yeah, Herbert. He looks like he's gonna be a star in this league. So with that being said, Jesse, what do you got in the last pick of the first round of games?
So give me Saints 35, Lions 29. I have a couple takeaways from this. Number one, what would that Saints offense be if Alvin Kamara was not doing quite literally everything besides playing quarterback, which I'm sure by next week they'll have a Wildcat package for him. So, I mean, this is a bad offense.
And with this game too, Alvin Kamara is making the claim that he should be considered for MVP because he has 8-9 total touchdowns already in week 4. Like, he is this offense. Like, that is it. Is literally get the ball to Alvin Kamara, hope he breaks as many tackles as humanly possible until Mike Thomas gets back.
Yeah, no, it's bad.
And then when Mike Thomas gets back, throw him his 5-yard slant routes.
Hey, if that gets me fantasy points, I'm okay with that because I have AJ Green starting in fantasy right now. But no, Saints are bad. They're not good. Drew Brees is old. He can't throw anymore. He needs to call it a quits. Needs to call it a quits at the end of this season, if not halfway through this season. Like, come on, man. It's bad. He's hurting the team more than he's helping them. Get Jameis Winston some snaps in there. Jameis Winston got that LASIK surgery, so he could probably throw the ball a lot better and find his receivers a lot easier. So get the load off of Kamara. Let Breeze just ride into the sunset and call it a day in New Orleans, man.
As far as the Saints go, this is absolutely par for the course, and this is what they're going to have to do. They have to lean heavily on the run game, and they're going to have to keep coming up with plays to get the ball out of Drew Brees' hands quickly and not that far down the field. That's where we are, and I think they're capable of it. We've seen they're capable of it. I mean, they are putting up a decent amount of points. I mean, considering that they don't have their number one wide receiver. When Michael Thomas comes back, it's going to be a different story. But on the flip side, this Detroit Lions team, it's the same story every single week. I mean, the Falcons get this reputation as these chokers, but how many times are the Lions going to start off and like first half they're going to look like the greatest show on turf, and then it all falls apart so quickly. And I mean, you feel bad for Matthew Stafford, but there's always that one mistake there. There's always that one hiccup on offense that the Lions seem to make, whether it's him, whether it's Swift dropping just a clean pass right to him. It always seems to be something. And it's not like they're not moving the football. I mean, the run game looks good. I mean, with the Lions, they're always going to be able to air it out. I feel like that's just a staple. I don't know. There's just something missing with this team, other than the fact that they obviously can't stop the run. I mean,
well, that's what I was going to say. It's defense, and that's what Matt Patricia is there for. So
and it's similar to like a Dan Quinn situation where he was brought in to fix the defense, and the defense honestly has gotten worse since he's gotten there.
Yeah, I mean,
bad.
Here's the problem.
The defense really is bad.
And another problem too is that Adrian Peterson is getting way too many touches.
That's
he did look great in the first half, though.
That is true. Very true. He did look great, but
I think Peterson just fits better on a team like Seattle or something, like where they're not trying to develop a young running back, but like they have two young running backs in Kerryon Johnson and DeAndre Swift. And Peterson usually gets the most touches.
It's like the Jets running Frank Gore out there at this point. It is counterproductive to the whole team's forward development. It's like how the Colts are running out a quarterback out there, like in Phillip Rivers. You know, he's older, but they didn't really have too many options. These teams have options at running back that are better and more productive just for the sake of getting them reps. It blows my mind. And it seems like the Lions always draft a new running back every year. They try it for 2 weeks. They don't live up to Barry Sanders' expectations, and they bring in a veteran right then and there to get over it.
Here's my problem. Just looking at the Saints real quick. Ryan Ramczyk, great tackle. Left the game with concussion. That's going to be a problem if you want to talk about Michael Thomas, I think this guy's just as much of a loss as that. I mean, that's a big hit. No, I mean, with the Lions, it's going to be the same. It's a top-down organization, and the fans are doing this weird thing where they're like glorifying like what they had with Jim Caldwell. You keep seeing that happen. I keep seeing them say like they fired Jim Caldwell after a 9-7 season. Like, yeah, he was.
So did the Colts.
He was not. Yeah, bring him back. Bring Jim Caldwell back and see what happens. It's not.
Yeah, the Lions, they're just stuck in neutral. They're not going anywhere anytime fast. But let's talk about a team that they have actually a future and an upside. And that's the Cincinnati Bengals beating the Jaguars, getting Joe Burrow his first win. And finally, Joe Mixon woke up this season and has been the running back everyone expected him to be and what his contract expects him to be. You know, they won 33-25, but he was dominant in the run game, and that's what they need to do just to get the pressure off of Joe Burrow so he doesn't get killed each week.
Yeah, the problem is going to be that they're not playing the Jaguars defense every week.
Yeah.
So don't expect that from Joe Mixon probably like ever again. But no, Burrow, if you just give Burrow some help, like this was far and away his best game. Just give him some help, man. Imagine what happens when they give him 2 serviceable tackles.
My God, that's an MVP candidate right there. Literally, the stuff he's doing on the field is insane. It's just there's no time for him to throw the ball. He has to scramble every which way and just do these little checkdowns because his receivers don't get open. And then when they do get open, he's already sacked by that point. So it sucks for Burrow.
The first 3 of these podcasts about the NFL week, I was killing Joe Burrow because you guys were glorifying him as the next greatest.
No, we were glorifying him because you were killing him.
Okay, but either way, look, the kid has talent. He's going to be special. He's finally shown it enough the first 3 weeks as a starter that he can push the ball downfield. But I still would like him to throw downfield more, but that's going to coincide with them actually getting him an offensive line and giving him more time to throw downfield.
Thank you. I like we're on the same page.
Look, I'm open to new ideas. I just wasn't ready to, write home about him after one start. That's all.
One start after arguing him the last 4 weeks. One start. Okay, get out of here.
I mean, I know I'm on Justin's team. I mean, it's regarding the circumstances. I mean, he did a great job against that vaunted Jacksonville Jaguars defense. It's very impressive. We have to wait and see for Joe Burrow, but again, to hold off the crown. This was his first win. Very cool, very nice, very sweet.
It is nice.
Touching moment, but like giving him the face of the NFL.
Who said that?
What are you saying that?
Who's saying that? I didn't hear Jesse or I say that. Or even
literally,
Justin,
all we're saying is he's a good quarterback, and apparently we're like
he's a good quarterback.
Trying to proclaim him as better than Peyton Manning or something.
I
hear
us giving Joe Burrow the key to the city, making him the new
he can have the key to Cincinnati. Who cares?
No one's from Cincinnati.
Who else is important in Cincinnati?
Right?
We're gonna have this debate every single week, it seems like. But Clark, real quick before we take a break, last game for this half of the podcast. Take your pick. There are so many that just great.
So many that just don't matter.
They're all bad.
That's why we did it this way.
I'm gonna go with 2 bad teams that we kind of touched on earlier with the Colts. But we went with the Vikings and the Texans because we saw the Vikings earlier in the season just be horrible, but now they just put up 31 points out of nowhere against the Texans. So cool, I guess. Texans are horrible. Vikings are
really bad.
Texans are bad. Vikings are bad, but not as bad to be able to put up 31 points.
Both of their seasons are done either way. Like, we're getting into the roadkill segment of this game where there's like every team's season on one of these matchups are dead. Because once you go you're sub 500 after week 4, the likelihood of making the playoffs are just done.
But Dalvin Cook is also having another great season. He's putting the Vikings offense on his back as much as he could. And he needs it when Kirk Cousins is being Kirk Cousins. So good for Dalvin Cook. I'm happy he's actually doing well. He needs to be in a better system, though, to be able to win a ring one day.
Well, nice job that this game was played. I mean,
yeah, very much. But I mean, I really want to hit on the fact that, like, as bad as Minnesota is, Houston is worse.
Yeah.
And the Vikings lost their best defensive player midway through the game when Harrison Smith got kicked out.
And the Texans have a top 5 quarterback, I'd say.
And the Texans still couldn't beat them.
Yeah.
They're
sad.
bad.
It's sad.
It's really bad. They might need to trade Deshaun Watson just to get assets
back.
I'd give him 2 first-round picks, honestly.
He's worth at least 2.
He's worth 2.
I would give up. If my team did not have a quarterback, I would give up 3 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson.
And on the flip side of things too, it might be the beginning of the end for Mike Zimmer in Minnesota, and that's because of the Kirk Cousins effect. He has just derailed this team. He is not what they thought he was going to be. I don't get why they thought he was going to be more than just a game manager. I don't know, but that's what it is. B. And you know what? You reap what you sow, and that's what the Vikings have to deal with at this point, because at this point they're not catching, the Packers. The Bears, jury's still out on them. They're not going to catch them, even though they lost and they have Nick Foles at the helm, and we'll get into them, after the break. And even the Lions, they could be the Lions are a competitive team, more competitive than the Vikings.
They're not going to beat the Lions twice.
No.
So already the 2 wins there that they should be getting, they're not going to get that. As far as I'm concerned, they're done for playoffs wise.
They're done. I think so too.
Yeah. And with that, this part of the podcast is done. When we come back, we'll get into the rest of the games from week 4 of the NFL season. And these are just matchups everyone loves talking about. So that's why they're in the back end of this podcast. We'll be right back. And we're back for the second part of the Week 4 recap of the NFL season with Justin, Steve, Joe, and Jesse. The cricket, it's still going in the background. Gotta love it. But we're reaching this part of the week where these games are just brutal to watch, and when you hope red zone never goes to them because you're more than likely just getting a field goal or because the other games are at halftime. And with that being said, Joe, what game do you want to talk about?
All right. Call this bias. Call it just wanting to get talking about this strictly out of the way. The Giants against the Rams. Repulsive. I mean, I've been wanting to talk about this because I am just so shocked at how Jason Garrett was supposed to be this offensive guru. What is going on? This is the worst I've seen the Giants offense, even worse than the prime Eli days. This is almost disgusting. And Golden Tate. I mean,
yeah, I don't really want to get into the Golden State stuff because it's just more Povich level drama. But the Rams literally just ran the ball without even trying against the Giants because they couldn't even stop it. This game was in the second half by it was a 4:00 game, and it was in the second half by 5:15. It flew by just because the Rams were literally just chewing clock. But the Giants, it's whatever. The Rams didn't even have to try. The score looks a lot closer than what it was. But if you watch this game, the Rams weren't doing anything. Goff only had to make one long bomb, and that was about it. So
yeah, the Rams let the Giants hang around and didn't even care that they were hanging around. The Giants had 2 or 3 different chances to go on a drive and win this game or get it within 1 score, and they just didn't.
Yeah, no, it's bad. I just want to know, are you guys sold on the Rams still? Are you still on the Rams bandwagon train or not?
I mean, I'm not going to write this off as they're the sky is falling because they barely beat the Giants. I'm counting this as they didn't have to try against the Giants, and this was a glorified bye week, honestly, because the Giants are no contest.
Nothing. They didn't do anything they usually do. Show some creativity, some flash on offense. They were just they didn't, and they didn't have to.
Joe, I asked you, should I start Goff or Watson in fantasy because the matchup is oh well, remember last time he played the Giants 4 years ago, he torched them for 55.
We were there.
Yeah. Now it was just okay. Let's run the ball and get out of here, and that's what this game turned into, and that's what this segment is turning into. Let's just get out of here.
Haven't scored a touchdown too. Odell Beckham has more touchdowns this season than the Giants.
Yeah,
so more touchdowns this season than New York Football Giants.
Let's just get out of this game, Joe. Not Joe. Jesse, what do you want to talk about?
I mean, really picking from the bottom of the barrel here. Yeah. I guess let's talk about Seahawks Dolphins. So there's a couple takeaways I have from this. One, the Seahawks traveled to the East Coast. They had the early 1 o'clock game slot. They easily could have dropped one here, and they didn't. So that's good. Because if they lost this game, I would not have been surprised. Because
they're so good on the East Coast. I feel like they always win when they play on the East Coast.
Yeah, and it's surprising though, because so many teams, when they travel, at least to hit that, when it's like 10 o'clock for them and they're playing, it really affects them. But
and that just comes down to like Pete Carroll managing their travel schedule. Like it works. Whatever he does, it helps them get over jet lag or at least cope with it a little bit better.
Yeah, it's the smoothies.
Yeah,
it's definitely the smoothies.
But good for the Dolphins for somewhat staying in it.
Well,
too.
and that's what the Dolphins have been trending upwards.
I think the Fitzpatrick thing might.
I think it's run its
course.
I think it's time to see Tua if he's healthy. Like he's listed as the backup, so at this point
he's healthy.
They may as well.
And they are going into an easier part of their schedule. Like I think they play like the Patriots this week, but I think after that they get a very easy schedule going forward.
Well,
so I think within the next 2 weeks, I would expect to at least be seen.
And that was I hope that's the plan, at least, just to let Fitzpatrick take the slings and arrows from all the really good teams that could seriously mess up.
Yeah, that they played 4 straight weeks.
But even then, this team is still competitive. Like Flores is a lot better than all the other Patriot descendants, to where his teams are in games more than they should be. Yeah,
no, definitely.
The Dolphins, they routinely and consistently play solid, respectable football. They did it last year. I mean, they're doing it again this year. Is that they hang around and they're very tough to put away. But I mean, on the Seahawks side of the ball, it's just, I mean, all I have to say is that the fact that Russell Wilson put up 350 and 2 touchdowns, and that was slowing his pace, says a lot about where this football team is going forward.
So moving forward,
they also played without Jamal Adams, by the way, which their defense right now was built for basically Wagner, Wright, and Jamal Adams to make plays. And that's pretty much how the defense has been.
And that's probably why this game was as close as it was, though.
And DK Metcalf is not only a number 1, but he's getting in the conversation.
They have 2 legitimate number 1 receivers on that team that no one's really talking about: Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf.
And David Moore has taken another step forward and has been much better this year than he was last year.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. So switching gears now, I want to talk about the last 4 o'clock game. The Indianapolis Colts beating the Chicago Bears 19-11, and boy, was this game just nothing really happened.
It was
being honest. It was
Here
just
comes the
defense.
Colts chill.
Okay, well, we had to get to this game eventually. But
we got to the Giants before the Colts first.
But I'll put it this way. Phil, he's a 38-year-old quarterback. This wasn't his best game. It wasn't his worst game. This is what I expected him to do, was just control the ground game, make the throws when he had to, not turn it over, which he finally didn't. I think this is the first game as a Colt he hasn't turned the ball over, which is a miracle. And the defense came through, and he did the bare minimum. Because, Joe, I remember we were talking earlier in the season. It's like, what's your expectations for, Rivers? I'm like, 3,000 yards and 20 touchdowns, which is the bare minimum. And that's what he had to do, and the defense came through. Now, on the flip side of things, Foles didn't look great, but they also can't go back to Trubisky unless there's an injury. You just can't. And they're committed to Nick Foles.
You say that.
They will. They might.
That, but I think they might within literally a week or 2.
You can't go back.
And it's this fool's gold with Trubisky and Foles and other guys and Fitzpatrick. It's when you put them in at halftime and they come in and the defense isn't expecting them, they can do all these things because you didn't game plan for them. And then you start them the next week, and guess what? The defenses have caught up. So I expect them to put Trubisky in probably in 2 weeks, get a win, and then start Trubisky again.
And also, I'm not the biggest, I'm not a football coach, big brain football mind, but also look who Nick Foles was facing. His former offensive coordinator in Philadelphia that made him a Super Bowl MVP. Who would be the number 1 guy that would know how to game plan against him then? To his weaknesses.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was more of a defensive game, honestly. You have 2 of the top defenses, honestly, in the league. Not 1 and 2 by any means necessary, but
Colts
2
is number 1 though.
Oh, okay. I know. Okay.
I gotta have some fun talking about it.
Okay, Justin, we don't need to rub it in, all right?
Come on, the baseball suck fest is gonna be sometime
Chill.
this week.
I know. We have a good defense, Justin. We do.
Joe, when you learn Photoshop, you can put me on the Pied Piper with all the Colts.
But
Chill.
Like Justin said, the Colts do have a good defense. So do the Bears, though. The Bears have a really, really good defense, and it was just a defensive game. The Colts held the Bears to 3 points up until the fourth quarter. Like, that's insane.
They didn't have Darius Leonard for
the second half.
They didn't have Darius Leonard the whole second half either. So that just shows the depth they have and all that.
And a move that's paying off, we thought he was burnt out and he was washed, was Xavier Rhodes. Like, say what you want. He's been playing really well in Matt Eberflus's scheme.
It's because he doesn't have to be the top corner on the field anymore. That's the only reason why he's doing good. If he's the corner number 1, he cannot guard a top receiver anymore. I feel that's just personally how I feel about it.
And it's been working out, though.
But yeah, it's working out. It is. But like Justin said, Colts top 3 defense in the league.
They're going to have a hell of a matchup, though, against the Browns this week. So that will really see what that defense is made of against that offense based on this past week.
That game should be talked about a lot earlier in the show, like compared to where the Colts were talked about today. That one should be up in the first hour probably next week. But yeah, it's going to be a fun matchup. Definitely.
So Clark, what do you want to talk about now?
Oh yeah, I gotta pick something. I forgot.
Yeah, it's your turn.
Oh, I wasn't even thinking. Let's get the battle of the injured squads out of the way now. We have Sunday Night Football. We have the Eagles versus the 49ers, and the Eagles pulled it off, and they're somehow in first place now. The Eagles, because they tied with the Bengals the week before, but they just clicked on all cylinders, and Nick Mullins looked like a backup quarterback finally. We were praising Nick Mullins last week, saying, oh, he's a great backup, one of the best backups in the league. Yeah, this week he showed why he is QB number 2 and not QB number 1 on any other team in the league.
Well, that's even when they brought in CJ Beathard, so it shows how short of a leash he was having with the Shanahan had with him, because he knew that they were going to have to win this game.
Yeah, but Carson looked like old Carson. That looked like the Carson Wentz I know. That's the Carson Wentz that we were debating against who's better between Wentz and Goff. But both of them actually on doing really good this season, Wentz and Goff now. But hey, Eagles won. That's all I got to say. They won. They're in first place. They're for first place.
This was at 1-2-1. They're in first place. The East is an absolute mess. But this was probably the best mental reset Wentz could get without getting a week off or a bye week for whatever to kind of get back to his old ways, because he looked broken for a while, not just like physically broken, but just mentally worn down.
Yeah, like his offensive line just his offensive line just wasn't there for him anymore. When you have your practice squad, running backs and receivers out there, it just takes a toll on you, knowing you're like a great franchise quarterback for that team, and having all of that nothing around you. Basically, it takes a toll. It does mentally take a toll on you.
Carson Wentz, I mean, you can look at the results. You can look at the fact that this season he has regressed. But in a vacuum, there are plays that Carson Wentz makes over the course of a game that show you that he's a top-tier talent in the NFL. That's why when we hear that he's terrible, I just can't buy it. The guy shows these flashes of talent, and he showed them once again on Sunday night, and that's going to be one of the 49ers kryptonites, is that they don't really play very well against guys who can move around in that pocket, and that seems to become a big problem for them. But I mean, he wins divisions. He's winning this division now, but he's won the NFC East like 3 years in a row now. I mean, it's talking like the guy's a liability. It's got to stop. I mean, he has had a tough year. He's had some very, very bonehead decisions, looked broken, but physically, he's a top-tier talent, and I'll stand by that forever.
I agree with you. He is a top-tier talent.
Jesse, any thoughts on this game?
I've said before, I think Wentz is a franchise quarterback. Is he a franchise quarterback in Philly? I'm not positive, because I don't think they know how to put a team around him that makes him shine as much as he did in 2017. And I also, while I do think he is a franchise quarterback, is he going to be that perennial MVP candidate that we all thought that he was going to be? I don't think so. Because we can talk about the flashes and the potential all that we want, but he's on his second contract now. And it's time to start actually showing consistently. The injury is now over 2 to 3 years behind him. That's not an excuse anymore. There's running backs who have come back from ACL tears, and nobody's talking about that anymore. So we can't just keep giving him a pass.
The ACL injury is almost kind of like what Tommy John was in baseball, where it was like a career-ending injury. But they've perfected the surgery and rehab process to get them back as fast as they could. Joe, are you okay? You look sad.
I'm sorry. No, it has nothing to do with football.
Is it the Yankees?
I mean, the umpire. I think it's Angel Hernandez back there, but absolutely, they have to learn. They have to learn how to call the strike zone when Aaron Judge is at the plate. It is inexcusable.
Just get the robotic.
They have to, because he's so tall that no one knows what his strike zone is. But it's just embarrassing that they call a strike that's at his ankles. But
Joe, is it your pick or is it Jesse's? I don't remember.
It's my pick.
Your pick. What do you want?
Okay. First of all, be nice.
I am being nice.
Whoa, what do you want? What do you want?
Exactly.
It's like when Joe calls what?
Yeah.
Right.
What do you want?
All right. Broncos Jets.
The game, mind you.
A game that happened.
Look, what did we pick last week on the podcast? This game.
All right.
Who'd you guys pick? The Jets. Who picked the Broncos? This guy.
I don't know how.
Congratulations.
I don't know how Brett Ripien won.
Put these in FanDuel or DraftKings next
seriously,
time. Make some money.
Yeah.
You're not making any money doing it here.
Adam
You
Gase's
say that
days.
like anybody cares about this game.
No one, unless you're Chris Douglas, no one cares. Adam Gase needs to get fired. Sam Darnold looks lost. I don't get how they literally phoned this game in when literally they picked off Brett Ripien on like back-to-back drives. It seemed like at some
Former
points.
Colt Pierre Desir getting those picks too, but he also sucked. It got like mossed by Jerry Jeudy, so that's another thing.
This game was just, it happened. Yay for the Broncos. Melvin Gordon got a garbage time touchdown run that inflated his stat line. But quite frankly, I don't care about this game because it was probably the worst Thursday night football game of the year.
Yeah.
Matchup wise.
Joe, any other words? It was the game you picked.
No, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It happened. It was a game. Norman, we got 3.5 because the Packers are still playing, but this game's basically over. So Jesse, what do you want to talk about?
So I'll take Cardinals Panthers. Panthers finally looked like somewhat of a team. This was DeAndre Hopkins' by far worst game.
He was also dealing with an ankle injury, I think, too. So that's probably why he was limited.
That's what I'm saying. I think if the Cardinals don't have DeAndre Hopkins going, their offense is a shell of itself. I mean, this was the best game by the Panthers so far this year that they put together.
Really well. Teddy looked really good. He's running around again, which is fun to see. Haven't seen him do that too much ever since the injury. Robbie Anderson is a legit number one wide receiver for this team.
You know who used to play for?
The Jets. And who needs a receiver? The Jets.
No, I really like Robbie Anderson a lot, even though he might not be all there all the time and thinks the Panther is a bear in the stadium. But anywho, no, I like this Panther team.
Yeah, no, offensively, it's what you expect. They're going to throw the ball a lot until McCaffrey gets back. And at that point, they're going to throw to McCaffrey. Defense can't stop anything. Probably one of the worst defenses in the league.
And yet they stopped the Arizona run game.
Yeah.
That's the sad part. This Arizona run game, at this point, I don't even know if it's Drake or Edmonds or if it's just that the line simply cannot
might be the
run
line.
block.
It honestly could just be the line.
They're not that bad at pass blocking, but I think they are god awful at run blocking. Like, it is impossible for them to run block.
Even with pass blocking, though, it can get covered up because Kyler Murray is fast and he can just scurry around the field really quickly.
No, they have to design more runs for Kyler Murray. I mean, that's it, plain and simple. I don't know what's going on there. I don't.
He looks like a child running around. He really does.
It is.
It's really so fun. It's so funny seeing him run.
It's so funny to look at.
It looks like Darren Sproles back in the day, just like his small little self running around behind like massive human beings.
It is really funny. It looks like a little me. Like, you know how like when you lift up a me and they go,
place him around.
Yeah.
That's cute.
But I mean, Cliff Kingsbury. I mean, he's shown flashes of being a good coach, but like I don't know how
he might be
I'm starting to fall out of love.
He might be a really good coordinator.
Yeah,
I think we also do need to give the Cardinals, I think, at least one more draft and free agency period before we really start to judge him, because
this is year 2, right?
Yeah, this is year two. So I think we do need to wait and give them a little bit more time, especially for, I think, getting some pieces on the offensive line, especially because they have the wide receivers for the next 5 years.
Yeah, they have
the quarterback. They sort of have a running back core. They just really need to develop linemen.
It's like the Cincinnati Bengals, but the only difference is Murray can run away from the people trying to hit him. Burrow isn't as mobile.
Exactly.
And the Bengals line is worse.
Oh,
the Bengals
far.
line is definitely worse.
Yeah.
So it's up to me, and I can't believe we're talking about this team this late in the podcast, but it's because of the matchup, and that's the Baltimore Ravens, no surprise, beating the Washington football team on the Battle of the Beltway, 31-7. Lamar looked fine. Ravens are good. Washington's a mess. Dwayne Haskins isn't it. We'll see friggin' Kyle Allen in next week, 2 weeks probably from now on at this point, because the Haskins experiment, I guess you want to call it, is done. I'm sorry for Ron Rivera that he has to deal with the Redskins and also battle cancer at the same time, because both are as exhausting as it's just awful. And I feel terrible for him. But this team is bad. It's as simple as that.
Haskins is not the guy. That's all I know. Haskins is not the guy.
I think Washington isn't the football team.
Haha.
I think they're really not good. They're really just not good. They have no talent.
Poor Chase Young
on that team.
He's just stuck there.
At least he's out for now.
Yeah, and he doesn't have to deal with it.
That's true.
They need to just hit on their picks over the next 3 years. They're not going to be that good anytime soon.
Yeah, they need a quarterback.
And what's funny too is
but they also need so many others.
And it's even terrible that we're ready to kill them and bury them and give them, the top 3 pick, and they're still in contention for the division.
They're going to be in contention for the division all year while still being a bad team.
Because thankfully, this is the last team from the East we have to talk about. Could a team realistically win with 7 wins?
Yeah, there was a thing on NFL Network earlier today that's saying the worst team to ever win was 7-9, I believe.
Wasn't it the Seahawks?
Yeah, the Seahawks.
It was the Panthers.
Beat the Saints,
was it not the Panthers too? No.
I don't know.
Panthers might have been 8-8 or something.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But
I think the Eagles will probably win the division at 7-8-1.
Oh my god.
And they couldn't even win a playoff game. That's just the way things work.
Oh, this is brutal.
They're gonna have home field.
Yeah, they'll have a home game.
Be division winner.
They'll have a home, just like the Eagles last year.
And the Saints and the Seahawks did when they were 7-9.
Get rid of that rule. Get rid of that rule.
Reseed, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're on to the final 2 Monday night games. We got the extra one because of the COVID-19 outbreak scare with the Chiefs.
And because of that COVID scare, we got Brian Hoyer, ladies and gentlemen.
And he played like Brian Hoyer. Yep. And Patrick Mahomes,
Brown's version.
Patrick Mahomes didn't play like Patrick Mahomes too much, though.
Because he didn't have to.
Didn't need
honestly.
to. Didn't need to.
It was like the Rams. They could be in cruise control the whole game. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Bill Belichick was going to scheme one of the 3 big targets out of the game in Helaire, Hill, or Kelsey. And kind of all of them, but not really. But the defense came through because Stidham started playing halfway through. This is what the Patriots were going to be if they didn't get Cam Newton, and this is what they're going to be because Cam Newton's out for however long he has to battle COVID. And if he's out long enough, this could tank their chances at being a playoff team. And it's amazing how quick we flipped the switch on him with Cam being gone.
No, yeah. Bill Belichick did coach, I guess, a hell of a game as a defensive coordinator, but again, it just so doesn't matter. It so doesn't matter. This is what you expect without Cam Newton, right? I wonder what the change of the line was before and after Cam Newton was ruled out, because it's so sad.
I think it went from -6 to minus 12.5. So Cam Newton was like a set 7 points himself.
Yeah, no, it's sad. Well, this game just made me sad.
Yeah, it was just whatever. Okay, fine. And with the final game being Packers-Falcons that are still being played by the time I'm recording it, the score right now is 27-16 pending in a PAT. The Falcons, they're bad. Nothing else we're going to say. Their defense is putrid.
No way.
What?
Giancarlo Stanton just hit a grand slam.
I smell a shell in here.
I'm so sorry.
I thought you were saying no way to like this game. I'm like, no, it's going on. That is
Anthony Walker. Anthony Walker just texted me. He said period with a T. He's gonna bask in this one for 8 years.
So you mean just regular period then?
Yeah.
Can't wait for that.
Period.
Oh God, what he said in that group chat is just disturbing. Not reading that on this podcast. Anything thoughts on the Packers-Falcons game? If you care to talk about it.
Rodgers is the man, and that's it.
Rodgers is still really good.
Matt LaFleur and Rodgers have created this synergy that he never got with Mike McCarthy, and it took a year, but they finally have it. And boy,
Mike McCarthy's toxic. You see what he's doing down in Dallas. Yep, he's toxic. There you go. It proves it right there. It was never Rodgers' fault or any of their weapons' fault or anybody's fault.
I still think Rodgers can be toxic. I mean, Rodgers' brother doesn't even like talking to him. So let's not just forgive Rodgers of everything, but he's a top flight talent. I mean, he's so good. They're doing this, by the way, without Devontae Adams still, who is a game time decision and was ruled out. They're good. I was hard on the Packers coming into this year, but that division is a whole lot worse than I think it was supposed to be, because the Bears are the softest 3-1 I've ever seen. And the Vikings are really bad, and the Lions will definitively lose both games to the Packers.
Yeah, Packers have an easy division title, just waiting for them to grab.
And with that being said, let's make our pick for Thursday Night Football, which is looking like
Tampa and Chicago, baby.
Yeah.
Oh, Tampa.
You know who I'm going with.
Tampa Bay.
Where is it?
Chicago.
Give me the Bucs. Give me the Bucs all day long. You saw what they did last week.
I think the Bucs are, if in the game that they're going to have to play in Chicago, of it being cold and ground and pound, the Bucs are better at that.
It's not cold.
October.
It's October. It could still be pretty cold.
Brady was in Foxborough for the last 20 years.
Yeah, no, I'm still saying even if it's cold, the Bucs are still better at running and ground and pound than the Bears are.
Oh, for sure. The Bears
so
are
even like you can't even use the weather against it. Like I don't see a way that Chicago really wins.
Especially if either Nick Foles or Mitch start. If one of them start, they're to lose anyways.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Mr. Expert Justin, are you going with the Bucs too?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
All right, then I'll be the Justin Valentovic this time.
You're going Bears just for the sake of going the Bears?
I'm just gonna go. Just do it.
I like it. All
right.
I like it, Joe. I like it a lot.
And that
Nick Foles versus Tom Brady. I've seen this
Super Bowl matchup.
Seen this one.
Yeah.
Look at
completely
that.
different teams. Who would have thunk it? But Clark, that's it. Where can people listen to us?
Oh, that's right. Hey guys, I'm looking at you guys right in the face right now. You know what? Just thank you for listening. We appreciate it. All four of us here really do appreciate it. But to never miss an episode or never miss an upload or any of that fun stuff, just subscribe on Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube. Follow us on our socials. We're supporting. We're not supporting. We're promoting. We're not supporting anything. We're promoting our stuff on there. So follow us at @department_pod on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. I keep saying this every week, but we do have final stuff planned. We do have MLB playoff stuff planned. In a very couple days. We'll be filming that soon. We have wrestling recap coming up on Saturday like usual. Will be uploaded on Sunday. So stay tuned for that stuff, and we'll see you in the next episode.